On the very first day of high school, everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged, except one boy. Old friends found each other in seconds. Laughter filled every corner of the school. He looked around, hoping someone would notice him, but no one did. For the first time, he wondered if being alone meant something was wrong with him. Even inside the classroom, an empty seat stayed beside him, as if silence had chosen him too. When lunchtime arrived, the cafeteria buzzed with conversations he wasn't part of. Day after day, he ate alone, telling himself that maybe tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow came and looked exactly like today. The hallways were always full of footsteps, but none ever walked beside his own. Then, one afternoon, he found an old wooden bench beneath a quiet tree. It wasn't special, it didn't solve his loneliness, but somehow it felt peaceful. From that day on, the bench became the place where he quietly watched the world go by. The next morning, he returned to the same bench without expecting anything to change. The bench waited for him, just as quietly as the day before. Around him, friendships kept growing, while he simply learned how to observe. Until one day, he noticed another child carrying the very same loneliness in his eyes. He walked slowly, as if unsure whether he belonged anywhere at all. He stopped beside the bench, saying nothing. Without thinking, the boy moved his backpack and made a little room. No words, no introductions, just an empty seat, waiting to be filled. Together, they watched the schoolyard in complete silence, and somehow it didn't feel lonely anymore. A tiny butterfly landed nearby, and for the first time, the younger boy smiled. Seeing that smile, he realized something he had never understood before. Sometimes, being there is enough. That afternoon, the bench was no longer a place for one lonely boy. It had quietly become a place for two. The days continued, and without anyone planning it, the little bench became part of their routine. Soon, another student wandered through the courtyard looking just as lost. She noticed the bench and stopped, wondering if she should keep walking. The boy quietly moved his backpack aside once again, leaving a small empty space. She smiled softly and sat down, as if she had been invited without a single word. 3 strangers shared the same silence, and somehow it felt like friendship. As the weeks passed, more students found their way to the bench. Some came with fear, others with sadness. Nobody asked why they came. They simply made room. Little by little, heavy hearts became lighter, carried by quiet company instead of perfect answers. Time changed. Faces came and went, but the bench remained exactly where it had always been. What once looked like the loneliest place in the school slowly became the warmest one. Without ever realizing it, the boy had stopped searching for where he belonged. He had quietly created that place himself. Years passed, and every new student somehow discovered the same little bench beneath the old tree. Some stayed only for a few minutes, others returned every single day, but everyone left feeling a little less alone. No one came looking for advice. They came because someone would always make room. Sometimes, the greatest kindness isn't knowing what to say. It's making sure no one has to sit alone. Eventually, the final school year came to an end, just as every story eventually does. When the celebration was over, the school grew quiet once again. Before leaving for the last time, he walked back to the place that had changed his life without him noticing. As he sat down one last time, something beneath the bench caught his attention. A small wooden plaque read, "If you're sitting here alone, stay. Someone will sit beside you." At that moment, every memory came rushing back, every face, every quiet afternoon, every silent smile. The next school year began. A frightened new student sat alone on the bench, and moments later, another student quietly sat beside them. The tradition continued. He smiled, picked up his backpack, and walked toward the future. Only then did he understand that he had never spent those years searching for friendship. He had spent them teaching others that no one should ever have to face loneliness alone. Sometimes, the place where you feel most lost becomes the place where someone else finally feels found.